So if you haven't seen the headlines, I know for a fact you've seen the ads. Home equity investment companies, HELOCs, HELOANs, all this wonderful stuff. Everyone looking to grab a piece of your equity. But what do they all mean? Stick around. This video, I'm going to break down what each of them mean and why one of the largest companies is actually getting in trouble for some of its predatory practices. Check out the video. Okay, so here's one of the facts, right? Everyone has equity. We're all talking about how we can leverage it. And one of the most important things you have to realize is that equity is actually not money. It is in fact an asset that you can leverage in order to buy homes, to pay off debts, to refinance your, I mean, there's so many things you can do. I don't even want to get crazy into it. While there are a number of ways to access that money, not each one of these is built the same way. And some come with some very specific costs that you have to be aware of so you can make the right decision on which one works best for you. It's important to remember they are completely different financial profiles, and using the wrong one can reduce your cash flow and even increase foreclosure risk. Let's talk about it. So the first one up has to be one of my favorites, and that is the HELOC. That is the home equity line of credit that works very similar to your average everyday credit card. It is a second position loan that is applied to your mortgage that gives you access to some of the equity in your home, not all of it. Most of the companies I know that will allow you to take a HELOC out will typically allow up to 80%. I think I know a couple that'll go up to 90, but at that point you're losing some crazy, you're getting some crazy interest rate. I don't ever recommend those. So because it acts and works just like a credit card, what that essentially means is that while you do have access to the cash, let's say $150,000, if you don't use it, you don't pay on it. That means I could have $150,000 on a 15-year draw period. That's the amount of time I can actually use the card to leverage my equity. And then I typically have a repayment period shortly thereafter. Some of the personal advantages of the HELOC, in my personal opinion, number one being flexibility, the ability to not only pay the loan, just like a credit card, but also to use and reuse it as you see fit for that particular draw period. There's also the fact that it can be paid in an interest-only fashion. So for those of you that are trying to reduce your monthly liabilities, but maybe not make a full payment while you stack some paper on the side, you could get away with paying just the interest. Now, depending on the rate for $100,000, it's usually about $667 a month in interest-only payments. That's crazy low and a great method we'll talk about later. One of the big downsides, unfortunately, with the HELOC is the fact that people think that because it's interest-only, they never really have to worry about paying down the principal balance, and that works until it doesn't. And once it doesn't, you are in for a world of hurt because now the repayment period hits, and because you weren't paying down on the principal, that debt that you financed, that $150,000 you used up off your HELOC is now due in full, and you've made no payments towards the principal for 15 years. Don't do that. Again, the big thing to remember that even though it is like a credit card, it is a credit card that is secured by your home. So if for some reason you take this money out, you use it irresponsibly, like buying a boat or a brand new car, and then don't start making those payments on time like you're supposed to, you could potentially lose your home. So if you're being smart, use that money wisely. Now that second thing we're going to talk about is going to be the HELOAN. The HELOAN works similar to the HELOC, and that is a loan secured by your property. Technically all these are, but I feel it needs to be stated this way. It is in fact a loan. That means they give you $150,000, and from day one, you immediately go right into repayment period. It's not the biggest first choice that I typically think to go to, mostly because for most people who are looking to consolidate their debts, it is a higher monthly payment, so that could kind of make you rub the wrong way. One thing I do like about it though is a fixed rate, unlike the HELOC, which I didn't mention, has a variable rate. That's something to remember. Payments can go up, payments can go down. On the HELOC, it is one locked fee, no different than your atypical second mortgage on your home. Some of the advantages here also kind of fall into the same place. Leverage it for home remodeling, leverage it for ADU build out, use it to value add into your property, use it for debt consolidation. Mostly anything you want to do with your HELOAN is pretty doable. It's a pretty smart decision, especially if you are fiscally smart. And that's going to be something you hear me say a lot, because a lot of these loans, if you're not doing things the right way, it's going to cost you. The key difference that I like to make sure people know when choosing between the HELOC and the HELOAN is that unlike the HELOC, as soon as you get the HELOAN, you are automatically borrowing all 150 grand in cash, which means you're repaying all $150. With the HELOC, if I only use $20,000 the first 5 years, that's all I'm paying on is the $20,000 for the first 5 years. Very, very different than what you'll find with the HELOAN. And now we get into my favorite. This is the home equity investment companies, the ones that you're probably seeing all over the nation. I don't know if I can say which companies I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure I can slap some logos around here. And as long as I don't talk bad about them, I probably won't get in trouble. So I'm just gonna tell you which ones on this screen. Now, the big thing to remember that these loans are not this. Now, what's important to remember is that this arrangement is not structured like your HELOC or your HELOAN. This is a company that is investing into your mortgage and giving you cash up front for 0 down payment. And that's really how they get a lot of the people that they do get, which are mostly at-risk homeowners, but we're not gonna talk about that yet. That's in the next part, Terrence, focus. It is a straight drop of cash that is delivered directly to your account with a very long, very confusing contract that I can't wait to break down. So the big thing that you'll notice is most of these, if you've seen them online, and if you don't see them, you're probably gonna start seeing them, most of these companies are advertising the big draw, which is, hey, you have no monthly payments, congratulations. The problem is, all money that's borrowed isn't free. So whether you're getting the money now or you're getting the money later, at some point you're gonna have to pay that money back. And this is where the biggest con for the home equity investment opportunities come in for me. The truth is, with a home equity investment, you are gonna pay substantially more, in my opinion, than you would pay for anything else because of the way they structure the deals. You could end up owing almost 20% of your home's equity when you go to close out that deal. But I'm gonna give you a real scenario. So a couple years back, I found this homeowner who was in a bad way and he needed some cash. He reached out to a company, I'm not gonna name any names, but that company gave him $86,000 flat. He had no job, poor credit, and no way to pay that loan back, so this was a great option for him. $86,000 to take care of his family. He was elated. But here's the catch. A couple years later, 3 to be exact, when we met him, he ended up borrowing $86,000, and when we approached them to see how much he was gonna owe when we sold his home, they told him $142,000. And that depends on how much we sell his home for. And if you're not tracking, let me break that down again. The amount of money that he owed back outside of the $86,000 was predicated on how much he actually ended up selling his home for. So if he had sold his home for $700,000 or $750,000, he was gonna owe them an additional amount of money. And I think at one point, the math even came out to about like $154,000. So you're talking to borrow $86,000 for 3 years, he was gonna give them almost 70 grand. That is crazy and very criminal, which is exactly why this video exists, because this particular company that I'm gonna name, because I'm gonna put some websites up about them, called HomeTap, is currently under a lawsuit for predatory lending. Links are down in the description. You definitely got to check this thing out. Essentially, the people that took out these loans are alleging that the entire contract process was confusing. And after 13 years of being in real estate, I can tell you this was without a doubt one of the most confusing contracts I've ever had to read. This contract stated that it was an option to purchase agreement, which essentially means, hey, at some point, we're going to buy your house. No, they weren't. They actually told me directly they are not a home purchasing program. They have no interest or intention of ever purchasing that property. Now, here's the confusing part and most of the problem. What they did lock in with that contract was permanent rights for 7 years to every decision he made, to his rent, how he moved the mortgage. Every contract had to be negotiated and ran by them. Every sales purchase agreement had to be run through them first before they would approve it. That is crazy. Now, regardless of how that lawsuit turns out, whether they win or maybe whether they settle, the truth is no consumer should ever be put in a position where they don't really know what they're signing before they do. And I think that's what really led to this whole thing being brought out in the first place. So the simple question that I typically ask a lot is, well, Terrence, hey, I do need the cash. Which one would you choose? Well, it really depends on what I need the money for. Now, personally, if I need flexibility with my money, the ability to have access to it for a long period of time, coming up and coming down with how I'm spending it, or if I'm spending it at all, then I'm gonna go with the HELOC. It's the simplest way to do it. I have tons of strategies that I've put together for some of my clients that make it one of the best methods of not only paying your house down in a significant amount of time. I have to put out a video about that. We just did this thing with a first position HELOC. It's crazy to see like the numbers actually play out in real time. I got to show you that. But if I want an exact amount of money, then yes, I would probably go with a HELOAN. Personally, there's rarely a moment or an opportunity where I would personally go for a HELOAN over the HELOC, but everybody's comfort levels are different, so I understand why one may work better for you than the other. Now, if for some reason I do not qualify for traditional financing, maybe I don't have a job, maybe I was laid off, maybe I fell on bad times, or I have family to take care of, and I don't really want to go for the full amount, then yeah, maybe, no, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, and I think one of the key phrases I've been learning to use in 2026 is, since when does the devil need an advocate? The truth is, in my opinion, there are rarely moments where I would actually advocate for a client to leverage or get a home equity investment. But here's the thing, what I would get and what might be great for you might be two different things. And that's the most important thing. As long as you, the consumer, understands what you're getting, what you're paying for, how much you're gonna owe back, then I think almost any deal is a great deal. And especially if you have plans on leveraging that debt or increasing wealth with it, then I'm all game for it. But once we start talking about things where we don't know how much the debt's gonna cost us, we don't know what the repayment's gonna look like. Hell, I'm borrowing $86,000 and 3 years later, I'm owing you $154,000. That is insane, but again, everybody's situation dictates. So now this is the point of the video where most people will think, hey, Terrence, you're crazy. Debt is bad. We should get away from debt. And I think of all the people that I've met, the most fiscally intelligent and the most successful haven't got there because they avoided debt. They got there because they knew how to properly leverage it. Debt isn't inherently good or bad. It just really depends on how savvy you are with leveraging it and what you have plans to use it with. For example, a friend of mine listened to me and took out a HELOC on his home. He was able to pay off all of their debts, consolidating over $3,000 in debts down to $667. He put 30 grand in his savings account, that's cold hard cash, was able to pay off all his debts and makes a $2,000 a month payment to that HELOC. Let's do the math. $2,000 a month, he owes $100,000 on it. It's gonna take him 50 months, that's 4 years to pay off that HELOC on a 15-year draw. This is assuming that he never touches any of the equity on that HELOC at any point in the future. But here's the kicker. While he's doing that, he's paid off his debts, his credit score has jumped up phenomenally, and all the while he's got pay raise after pay raise, credit card offer after credit card offer. It's insane to see what his savings account now looks like because he took my advice and did what we planned. Not what felt good, what we planned. And this is where we get into the part of the video that most of you hate. And those are the most common mistakes that I see with people who try to do this and fail. Mistake number one is 110% gonna be the ones that leverage this HELOC or any of these loan products for a lifestyle change. That's buying cars, buying new homes, buying clothes, taking more vacations. All of these things are piss poor ways to use your credit and definitely a bad thing that's gonna get you locked up. In fact, that brings me right into number two, which is those people that pay off all these debts, consolidate everything, and then begin to use the same credit cards they just paid off, creating double the debt that they had. But you'd be surprised how often I see that one. Mistake number three, we're gonna go right into those home equity investments. The truth is, those are inherently really, really bad, especially if you don't understand how the repayment works or how your home's appreciation is ultimately gonna be impacted. Your home appreciating by double means you could be paying tens of thousands of dollars for every penny you borrowed, and that's a dangerous place to be, and you're gonna lose a ton of money that we could have saved with all of the other options we talked about in this video. So with that said, your home is one of the largest and greatest assets you have access to. So the question isn't how do I get my money out, the question is how do I leverage the equity that I have in that home while I'm not planning on moving to help me build more wealth so that when I move, we've got way more cash. That's something you 100% can do by reaching out to me in the comment section, letting me know what your plan is, or even scheduling your discovery call, which is down in the comment section as well, letting me know what your plan is, what you're hoping to accomplish so we can set you up on the right path, not the wrong one. You'd be surprised how often people get straight on the wrong thing, but you found me now, so you're gonna be straight. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned, can't wait to get you guys some more content.